Hi everybody, I'm Soledad O'Brien, and it is my honor to congratulate the 6 winners of the 2022 National Medal for Museum and Library Service. Libraries and museums stand the test of time, and as you'll learn today from the stories of this year's medal recipients, one of which was founded nearly 3 centuries ago, these institutions are the lifeblood of their communities. They observe and engage, they witness and they respond. Across our lifespans, libraries and museums are impactful teachers, helping us see ourselves and the world around us in new ways. And our lives are richer, academically, socially, and culturally, not just because of what's inside their walls, but what we take away from our interactions and visits long after we leave. So I hope that you'll join me in celebrating the 3 libraries and 3 museums that are the 2022 IMLS National Medals recipients. Congratulations to each one of you. Thank you.
Well, welcome to what is in essence the reestablishment of the IMLS National Medals for Museum and Library Service. It's been over 3 years, long, brutal years for all of us, and we are so glad, so happy to see you, to be here with you to celebrate what you have done for your communities and indeed for our country. We are met in a historic house, Anderson House, the home of the Order of the Cincinnati, a fraternal, hereditary through the firstborn male. This may sound familiar to some of you who know some of our history. Patriotic society, our first patriotic society, devoted to the remembrance of the American Revolution and its exalted rights and liberties. As we face in our country today, as you all do, and you are all doing it, I think, brilliantly and in the right ways. We'll get into a polarized nation today. Very great difficulties, people trying to ban books, people assaulting statues and paintings. This might have seemed familiar to the founding generation. They were at it pretty hard and heavy too, in many ways. As was Lincoln's generation, of course. We did fight a civil war once, which is probably a little worse than what we're facing today. So we might take solace in that, or maybe we don't take solace in that. Maybe we think it's going in that direction. But under the themes of the rights and obligations of citizenship, which is certainly a theme that we're going to have as we walk forward at the IMLS, and the need for an enlightened and informed citizenry, which the founders universally wanted, expected, and thought was the only ultimate salvation of the Republic. I want to explore what we as libraries and museums, as the cultural leadership of this country, can do, and in the case of our medalists, are doing, have done for our country. The IMLS is a part of America 250, the commission established by Congress to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. We want to begin thinking about the conversations we can have in our libraries and museums that can help us preserve the spirit of liberty in our Republican experiment, and provide for new and reinvigorated pathways that we can take together with our communities, together with everyone in our communities, in the pursuit of happiness. But I want to leap forward now to the past 2 years to talk about our place in the arc of justice, what we are almost religiously calling equity today, religiously, relentlessly, and not unwelcome for all that. If we get it right, equity is about justice, it's about fairness. Justice, fairness are hard to define and harder to do. The library is a center of response in the pandemic. In Wilmington, of course, it's statewide literacy focus, and they pioneered the barbershop library. Throughout the library world, pop-up libraries in places like laundromats and barbershops, buses and street corners, the return of bookmobiles, technologically enabled, has been a revolution in outreach to the people who need that outreach, to the people who need libraries. And what's happened is Tocqueville saw this about Americans. He saw this about Americans in the 1830s when we were pretty disturbingly polarized at that time. He said that we were good at meeting needs and problems on the ground by creating local associations around those problems with local groups, neighborhood groups, the social justice groups, if you will, of the 1830s, solidarity groups, that we knew how to respond at the local level because we trusted each other. And that's what happened in the later days of the pandemic. It wasn't the mandates to do something at the federal level or the mandates not to do something at the state level, but our sense of obligation and duty kicked in. Madison also talks about that, James Madison. His sense in parts of the Federalist, in his notes on government, his essays in the 1790s, talks about mutual obligation, about reciprocity, about the character of an informed citizenry. What even today we might not be embarrassed to call a virtuous and enlightened citizenry, that it is a necessity to maintain our republic, to be healthy in every sense of the word. In that sense, folks like the Amistad Library must be mentioned. Its civil rights collection is there for the most important of American communities, the community of enlightened citizens, those who realize in dark times that freedom, in Daniel Allen's words, must be taken, earned in the sense of the Freedom Riders, of John Lewis standing on the Pettus Bridge or Rosa Parks sitting on the Montgomery bus. They took their freedom, earning it for all the rest of us, and cashing just one part of the promissory note, the promissory notes of the Constitution and the Declaration. Simone Weil, who was a French philosopher, was asked by General de Gaulle to write the program for the French resistance should it take power after the end of the Second World War. And the first sentence of The Need for Roots, the English translation of her program for the French resistance, her first sentence is, I believe, the most important philosophical sentence of the 20th century, important for our century as well, maybe more important for us. Her first sentence was, obligations precede rights. The Oakland Museum and the Burke Museum, Asheville Museum have done much in their very different ways to give back to their communities, very different communities in different ways, a sense of ownership in the natural world, our landscape, our art, the art made in and from the community, the design of life that makes us at once the creatures of nature and the makers of our environment. And as Daniel Allen says, seeing the beauty in our flawed selves, in our flawed history, that is equally true and equally beautiful for all of us, is our most important attribute as human beings. Madison and Jefferson and Tocqueville saw that in a democratic in a democracy, public opinion must always be the most powerful force. We know that today, and it's a dark thing what our public opinion can become. To preserve a republic dedicated to freedom and equality, it must, in our case, it must become an informed and enlightened public opinion. To do that, we must continue to learn from each other as we learn from the riches of our libraries and museums, the power of what we do in our cultural institutions. What Professor Allen writes about so eloquently is to use all of our power driven by a key word for her. And as I said, she wrote an article called Why Love the Constitution. Love is that key word. And I'd like to end with a story. A few of you have heard this, but it's an important one to me from my Kansas City Public Library life. There was a man named Alvin Sykes who was a musician who grew up in public housing with only an 8th grade education, and as he liked to say, and education in the public library after that, the Kansas City, Kansas, and the Kansas City, Missouri public libraries. A friend of his was killed in what was clearly a biased killing at Liberty Memorial, our World War I memorial. And he was acquitted. The perpetrator was acquitted by the jury, an all-white jury. Alvin had heard about the civil rights laws being used in cases like this. In fact, it had only been used once up to that point. He went to the Kansas City Public Library and he asked a reference librarian about that. And they sat down with the U.S. Civil Code and found the right place. And he spent a lot of time talking to local prosecutors, federal prosecutors, and he finally got an assistant attorney general in Washington named Anthony Scalia, who told him that he was right. And they prosecuted the guy and put him away. He's still in jail. That was in the 80s. Alvin then became instrumental in solving, or at least bringing to court, the cold cases in the civil rights universe, including a close relationship with Emmett Till's family, with his cousin Simeon Wright, who spoke for us in the Kansas City Public Library. And he became the key when the Till Bill, as it was known, which established the cold case section of the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, was in Congress. He became the key person in passing that bill. And the key moment was when he sat in the office of the most conservative United States Senator, Senator Coburn, Tom Coburn, who, by the way, was a friend of the IMLS. Tom Coburn's office. And Tom Coburn wouldn't approve the bill not because of anything to do with race or civil rights, but because it wasn't funded. And that was a moment when some people in Congress were taking that seriously. It's a little joke. And Alvin just sat in Tom Coburn's office until finally Senator Coburn, it's like about 3 weeks, he did this. And finally Senator Coburn came out and said, "Come on in, let's talk." And Alvin convinced Tom Coburn to waive his rule and pass the legislation. Probably the most interesting moment in my career was when I had a conversation with Alvin Sykes and Tom Coburn before 300 people in the library. And the importance of that was, here's Alvin Sykes, who was a Buddhist social justice warrior, a jazz musician. He was converted to Buddhism by Herbie Hancock. Sitting down with Tom Coburn, the most conservative man in the United States Senate at the time, who was a deeply believing Christian, a doctor. And the conversation they had, there was one key word in that conversation that recurred, and it was love. And Tom Coburn said about Alvin that he knew, because Alvin presented love, because he came to literally, he said, love Alvin. And Alvin said the same thing about him, that he understood that everything Alvin did, every act in Alvin's life was pure. In our deeply skeptical world, there is room and need for what the 12 of you, our medalists, there's room for, and more importantly, need for what you do more than ever. I'm going to call you the 12 disciples. Because you do it for the best reasons, for the pure reasons, with faith and hope and love. Thank you.
When you have a piece of history that bears the same name as yours, a lot can be expected of you. Let me tell you, the Amistad delivers. Part museum and part archive, the center brings together a rich collection of art, culture, and our shared history to tell stories of Louisiana and the African American experience through the centuries, each of them unique, beautiful, and remarkable. A key goal of the center's leadership is bringing these stories to the public, even to those who can't physically get to New Orleans. Their traveling exhibitions are designed to open eyes and open minds. Likewise, they have dedicated themselves to digitizing their artifacts so that technology is the only key you need to explore Amistad. What I love about the center is that through their doors, you literally walk into history. Amistad is really a treasure for me because many of my stories are set in Louisiana or the South. And for the research that I need, I rely on the Amistad. It's usually my first place of contact. Many times it's the personal papers that I find at the Amistad or some of the historical research, the archives that I find help me because those materials are not in other archives or locations. Many times they're not in print, they're not published. So I can come here for interviews and for personal papers like civil rights leaders that really help me with the information that I need. Even if people cannot come to the location physically, a lot of information is online. And I'm thinking specifically about educators because many times now traveling or going on field trips is cost prohibitive, but there are so many programs and advantages that are available to teachers and to classrooms digitally. And there's a wonderful program that the Amistad has, I think it's called Amistad on the Go, that is so clever, so timely, and it's a great resource for teachers. So I just invite educators to check it out.
Hello, my name is Kim Boyle, and I'm the chairperson and president of the Board of Directors of the Amistad Research Center in New Orleans. On behalf of our phenomenal city of New Orleans and the state of Louisiana, Amistad is honored to accept a 2022 National Medal for Museum and Library Service. Tracing its history to an 1841 United States Supreme Court case involving the transatlantic slave trade, Amistad is more than an archive and library about struggle. Amistad is a place where the stories and triumphs of leaders and everyday people from all walks of life continue to live in the public's mind. Through Amistad's efforts to provide access to our collections, those from many years ago to those documenting today's world, as well as the educational programming, exhibitions, and partnerships that are born from those collections, Amistad is a community resource for scholars, educators, students, family historians, artists, and others. Our community continues to inspire us to open our archives to all who wish to learn about the fundamental underpinnings that make up our country's complex, rich, and beautiful ethnic tapestry. Now more than ever, Amistad's work is critically important. No matter the audience, Amistad's collections and programs have the power to elucidate, explain, and inform. But perhaps more importantly, Amistad also has the power to nurture the minds and well-being of individuals from every generation, to drive community engagement and to catalyze lasting social change. Thank you.
I'm Laura Mitchell, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to the amazing work of the Asheville Art Museum. Their dedication to interpreting Southern Appalachian artwork, uniting all media to fully illustrate its rich history, is unmatched. As the new museum building welcomes you into the world of American art through its inviting glass facade, it's hard not to feel an instant connection to the place and person-centered collections and installations, no matter what part of the world you're visiting Asheville from. Even in the face of the pandemic, shortly after their grand reopening, they were determined to find creative ways to keep visitors digitally engaged and learning. Let's take a closer look at some of the ways they've been building partnerships and making an impact in our community and region as a whole. One of the most exciting connections is the opportunities that the Asheville Art Museum gives to our students and our teachers, and as well as our families. Museum educators here at the Asheville Art Museum work closely with me to build some professional development that is really truly meaningful and relevant to our teachers. Across the whole curriculum, they can make those arts integration connections. One of the other things the Art Museum does is they host the Regional Scholastic Art Awards. And this is such a gift to our community and to our students here in Western North Carolina, because they do a phenomenal job of exhibiting the work in a very professional manner, and then they bring in the students and parents and have a beautiful award ceremony, and the students can actually see themselves as artists. They provide art camps for our students so that in the summer, and they also employ some of our own educators here in Macomb County Schools. I would say also just working with the staff here, and just how personable they are and how connected they are to our community. That's just one of the biggest strengths, is just that they want to serve others and they want to serve the community by sharing visual art.
Western North Carolina has artistic traditions that go back to the Native Americans who first settled in the region, and include diverse contributions of those who later made Southern Appalachia home. There are contemporary creatives working here and excelling in every art form. There are also robust venues to engage with the arts, but there has never been an anchor, a highly visible arts institution proclaiming the centrality of the arts to our community's well-being. We set out to create just such a place, accessible to all. The project took more than a decade to come to fruition and involved the efforts of hundreds. The museum is a place of learning, inspiration, and sharing. Uniquely, it celebrates the region's important aesthetic contributions and that of America in dialogue. Our programs serve populations from preschool to seniors. We love it when an artist tells us of a pivotal moment when their own practice was enhanced, when we overhear memories evoked and stories shared between elder and younger, when a child has an aha moment with a work of art, or perhaps their first time in an elevator. Their horizons are expanded, and so are ours. Each day, our encounters with visitors tell us how important the work of museums is. This honor is for the whole community. Rightly known for our beautiful mountains, beer, and food, the National Medal puts the arts front and center. Our challenge was and is to remain a responsive organization, learning from each visitor, meeting needs, expanding vital programs and partnerships, and creating an equitable and accessible space that shares our collections and honors and supports creativity, learning, and connection. The amazing staff, trustees, members, and supporters across the nation make our work possible. We want to thank the Institute of Museum and Library Services for all that they do, and for this incredible honor, which shines a light not only on our museum, but on our area's amazing creative heritage and contemporary arts community.
Hi, I'm Linda Kadoff, and I have the pleasure of telling you a little about one of my favorite places, the St. Louis County Library. The library's 20 branches are everything you imagine when you think of a traditional library, like reading clubs and research materials. But look more deeply and you'll see an organization that supports its community members across the lifespan, from diapers to digital devices, from a supermarket on wheels to a mobile vision care unit. To me, the St. Louis County Library embodies what a community partner can and should be, responsive to the needs around it. And at a time when we all need maybe a little bit more help than usual, the library is there, helping us connect to each other and to services that can make our lives better. Here are some of the reasons we all feel lucky that this institution belongs to us. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's so much bigger, or they have a lot more room for books. It's 2 stories, and they have more rooms to do like computer programs and things. I actually have grown up at the library. My parents used to take me there when I was little. Then as I got older and had my own kids, I seriously brought them up going to the library. I mean, we went from when they were very tiny, we would go for story time, and we got very involved with doing all of the activities and all of the different things that they offered. Got to know the librarians very well, fairly close to them, I would say. I got involved with the art club, which was every Wednesday. And then I got my dad involved with the art club, and it was really nice just spending that couple hours together each week. And then I've done tons of the garden programs that they have. We do have a community garden up here at the Grants View branch that we have had since the beginning, and we really enjoy that and growing our own stuff. And let's see, I've done a bunch of exercise classes, Zumba and yoga, and all kinds of different things like that. So I feel very much a part of the library.
We are incredibly honored to receive this prestigious award honoring the work of our employees. The St. Louis County Library's efforts to intentionally steer our priorities to support the community were more important than ever during the pandemic. We look for opportunities to bridge gaps in service for issues like the digital divide, food insecurity, economic instability, health disparities, and working with the justice involved. We make it a priority to remove barriers and increase access to library services. Throughout the pandemic, we have provided essential services to help people stay connected, access resources, and continue learning. Together with our community partners, we have provided meals, diapers, technology, tutoring, vaccines, and rental assistance at our branches. Our efforts to address the digital divide were particularly impactful during COVID. Last year, we provided 1,500 GrandPad tablets with built-in data and internet to older adults. We have heard from many thankful recipients. One senior wrote to us and said, "I wanted to say thank you. You saved my life. I picked up my GrandPad yesterday and I love it. I've been on it all night long. You did a blessed thing for senior citizens. Because this will entertain you and keep you from being sad and lonely. It's so easy for people like me, illiterate when it comes to gadgets, but this is beautiful and I just wanted to tell somebody at the library, thank you." Libraries move people forward wherever they are in life, and this is what the employees at the St. Louis County Library are doing every single day. Thank you.
Imagine a museum founded by teenagers more than a century ago in response to the cultural exploitation that they saw around them. Their commitment to preserving the artifacts and personal histories of the people who call the Puget Sound home is the foundation upon which the Burke was created and continues in its DNA today. I'm Rachel Tumyan, and it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to one of our country's most magnificent, multifaceted, mind-blowing museums here in Seattle, Washington. We've come a long way since our founding in 1885. Visitors today will be wowed by the unparalleled study and preservation of the fish species, including eggs and larvae. Their jaws will drop in examining our 100% complete T-Rex skull, or they may lose themselves exploring our vast collection of Northwest Native art, of which we are extremely proud. But that, as they say, is just the tip of the iceberg. I would say the best thing about the Burke, in my opinion, is just the community that I've built here. And we were able to be ourselves, didn't have to perform for the academy or classes, just working with different departments. Everybody's really great to work with. We were asked to commission a traditionally woven pandanus sail for long voyaging canoe to be exhibited in the museum space. The Burke Museum was really instrumental, and the crew that helped install the sale was really a key part of making all of this happen. And so, building that relationality that's so important to Pacific Islander culture and values that we also incorporate in our research really made this happen. And so now people visit the sale in the exhibit space, and coming from all different seafaring communities or communities that have weaving practices, and they're able to connect with the sale. So it's been very important for us to have this space and to use our knowledge and values from our cultures to influence transformation in museum spaces.
The Burke Museum is honored to be recognized for its commitment to serving our communities. As Washington State's museum, we are a working research museum and a living cultural organization. Co-creating knowledge with communities isn't optional. It is an imperative if we want to truly live and fulfill our mission. Above all, our driving vision is creating transparency and access. We live in a time where people feel disconnected from each other, from our histories and cultures, and from the natural world. Our commitment to our vision comes to life in the new inside-out model building, which brings visitors into close, meaningful engagement with the Burke's research labs, workrooms, and collection areas, which are open to you. And we also work to bring the Burke to people who may not be able to visit us in person through all of our traveling and virtual programs and our online searchable collection database, which we continue to digitize to make it more accessible to our communities. Our work depends on connections. We collaborate with institutions, communities, and tribal nations to understand our past, face the challenges of our present, and create positive, community-centered change in the future.
I am thrilled and honored to present to you the Institute of Museum and Library Services 2022 National Medal Award winner, the Wilmington Public Library. This library that we have all come to cherish and respect is located in a community that once had its needs and wants forgotten or ignored. This library was seen as a homeless shelter just a few years ago, but it took a vision, a boatload of courage, and relentless determination to bring about a change, which we know the transformation was not easy, but we are standing in a place right now that is seen as a beacon of light and hope. This library is a fixture in the community and beyond. You can tell by their social media platforms. Take a look at the quality of shows and events that they take on every day. It goes to show you this library is deeply rooted and investing in the community on a daily basis. So it's no surprise that they have won this prestigious award amongst other honorable mentions. Yes, it's been 100 years. Yes, the changes have been remarkable. But do not sleep on this library, because if you think the transformation has been phenomenal, just wait, because they have only just begun.
I think the most important thing that I've learned from this library and witnessing how it moves is that they're invested in investing in the community. They could easily just be here, take your books and go. But they're like, no, we actually want to pour into those that are around us. We're not gonna look up at we're not gonna turn our nose up to the community and just be like, well, because you're not presenting yourself a certain way, you're not worthy. Like, I really do appreciate how grassroots this library is.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And everyone is welcome here.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you, Delaware!
We are loyal to the library. I scroll on their page every morning just to see what's out there, because I don't want to miss out on anything. There was a girlfriend of mine who was having a lot of problems, and she was the grandmother of our grandkids. Just this past weekend, they were having a diaper giveaway from size 1 to 6. And she came and she got diapers. And she said, this is money that I don't have, that they give it to me for free. My friends, some of them come for workshops like I do for finances, or I remember the Delaware Black Chamber of Commerce. They also had an event here, and they're very, very, very invested in this community.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jamar Rahman, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Wilmington Institute Free Library. And on behalf of the City of Wilmington, Delaware Division of Libraries, Newcastle County, and our great staff and Board of Trustees, I'm humbled to accept this honor. As the Declaration of Independence representing the end of the American Revolution and Emancipation Proclamation pontificated the freedom of people of African descent, the IMLS Medal, the highest honor in library land, is a resounding victory for us as we have waged warfare against the epidemic of illiteracy in our community. We have citizens that have never left the city of Wilmington. Therefore, we have brought the world to them. Our citizens have walked into their city library and have met and interacted with some of the most prolific voices in modern times, such as LeVar Burton, Dennis Rodman, Angela Davis, Dr. Cornel West, Anna Navarro, and Pamela Greer. Black boys in our community were struggling with reading. With our Barbershop Books initiative, we set up pop-up libraries in barbershops all throughout the city. Young black boys now associate reading with swagger, freshness, coolness, and the pride of a haircut. This initiative has transformed our city, and it will ultimately transform our nation. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us and the future of all urban libraries to make freshness, flavor, swagger, and coolness the bedrock of all of our endeavors. That is how the revolution is won. Thank you, IMLS, for this token of victory.
Art, history, and science, all focused on and designed to celebrate the incredible diversity of California, from its people to its plants. That's the makeup of the Oakland Museum of California, founded in 1969 to be a museum of the people. I'm Carolyn Johnson, CEO of the Black Cultural Zone Community Development Corporation, and I can't tell you how many times I've overheard museum visitors whisper, "I never knew that." And that's important because most of the visitors here are local, not tourists. You see local school kids learning about where they live, how their environment was shaped, and what generations before them fought for. People who visit here see themselves in the artifacts. They feel comfortable and welcome, which is just one of the many things that makes this museum so special and deserving of this award. Oakland Museum of California has been very important to me, and it was just a special place, different than East Oakland, a place that was different and relaxing and exciting and inspiring. So I've loved the museum since I was in high school. And so there's no particular program. I've come to some of the Black Panther work as well, some of the Afrofuturism work as well, which is a major exhibit. So I've had a chance to get in touch with the exhibits, with the administration, and with the festivals and the events that you have. So all of OMCA has been something special for me. And also the Afrofuturism exhibit has been something that's opened their eyes to what a museum can be and what it should be for them in their lives. I think, again, OMCA and its involvement in bringing the museum to East Oakland has been really special because it's so far away, but bringing it closer to us makes East Oakland folks feel like we're a part of the museum. It's a beautiful location, it's got great art and exhibits, and it's really connected to our community. It's not just a museum for them, it's a museum for us. So what I really want folks to know is that it's here, it's beautiful, it's meant for us, and it's special. And I want folks to come to OMCA, to see the space, to see the art, to see the exhibits, and know that it's not just for them, it's for us.
The Oakland Museum of California is so honored to be a recipient of the National Medal for Museum and Library Services. This award recognizes our important role in our community as Oakland's gathering place or town square, as a place where people come together to build greater trust and understanding and connection. Since our founding in 1969, we've been known as the Museum of the People. We tell the stories of California, including the untold and undertold stories. And by lifting up these voices, our visitors see themselves and their identities reflected. They connect with other people, both people like them and people not like them. And they feel a sense of belonging. As we emerge from this time of social distancing, we believe Oakland and the Bay Area needs and deserves a place like the Oakland Museum of California. For us, this award is a tribute to all the people whose shoulders we stand on, not just today, but for the last 50 years, our board members and donors, our staff and volunteers, our community partners. And for us, this is a time to rededicate ourselves to being a museum of, by, and for all the people. We are so grateful to IMLS for this great honor. Thank you.
This poem is called Palaces, and it is dedicated to the 2022 and 2021 National Medalists for Museum and Library Services. How I love those grand monumental buildings, those palaces of the people, those museums and libraries. Even the smallest storefront library wedged next to a Radio Shack feels like a soaring place of worship to me. They have a reverential, air-conditioned, hushed, or maybe not so hushed aura to them. They say, "Here, readers and wanderers, you may flip through the racks of romances," or my favorite, the 811s according to Dewey, the books of poetry, and then find what you didn't even know you most needed. Maybe the word museum already calls to mind some marble and columns, the palaces along Fifth Avenue's Museum Mile, back in a time when those robber barons decreed all culture should be locked up in their gilded Fabergé mansions, which already showed so many cracks. But after untold striving, there are museums in all boroughs and all cities now, and palaces can be made of warehouses or people's living rooms, and there are museums with no walls at all. Just recently, as I was walking home over a typically drab bridge, I became a visitor to an all-of-a-sudden art gallery. The piece was aerosol paint on sheet metal, but as exquisite as anything gracing the walls of a cathedral. A figure drawn with sparse, concise arcs of black spray paint was sleeping peacefully under a two-dimensional blanket, while a smiling, minimalistic angel hovered over them protectively, the angel's wispy body as long as the sleeper's bed, angelic legs crossed at the waist, a floating, dreamlike vision of safety and serenity. The sleeper's face and the angel's face hovered against the rivets of the sheet metal. I almost fell to my knees on the cold cement when I read the words painted below, "Rest in peace, Brian," and the date. But the very next day, the mural was slathered over with white paint, the city deciding that no museum, no memorial was permitted on that bridge. But despite everything, I still feel truly lucky to call the city of Baltimore my home, the site of so many palatial museums and libraries, including my childhood temple, the Holy of Holies, the central branch of the Enoch Pratt Free Library. Any visit there starts with the department store windows, decorated with authors' photos like glamorous movie stars, and then you sail in through the towering brass doors. Of course, my haven was the children's basement with its tiled koi pond and beanbag chairs where I learned the love of storybooks while watching the city's legs pass by in the tall cellar windows. Recently refurbished, I still love to drift through that light-saturated library, a grand atrium that asks you to browse and float through the stacks at your leisure, not hurrying you along like other massive structures that just want to expel you from their opulence as soon as possible. But I make pilgrimages to the neighborhood branches too, those warmer, cozier outposts of warmth and book clubs and night classes and James Patterson, always so much James Patterson. But these are the true palaces that stitch my beloved city together. In fact, during the 2015 uprising in Baltimore, the Penn North branch kept its doors open and never turned anyone away at the insistence of Dr. Carla Hayden. A similar spirit of openness infuses my favorite museum in the city, the American Visionary Arts Museum, exclusively exhibiting artists who are self-trained, self-taught, true visionaries. In their palaces made of toothpicks and kitschy queer love stitched in sequins, the artists at this museum show us how to take our oddness, our obsessions, our untrained eyes, and make beautiful devotional works from our own lives and memories. Maybe most essentially of all, museums and libraries give the public their dignity. I think of the Enoch Pratt Library, purposefully designed without any imposing stairs at the entrance, relieving all the stroller pushers and those for whom the stairs would be a barrier. How rare it is to share public space that actually invites us in. So I think too of the St. Louis County Public Library going late fee-free and merging with the city system to better serve their community, or the Asheville Art Museum, showing us how to celebrate regional culture while also situating that culture within all sorts of arts and artifacts, just as they merged old and new with their incredible building, which is a work of art in itself. Consider too the dignity that the Wilmington Institute Free Library offers its patrons, a gilded beauty of a library with carved sculptures of winged creatures along the roof, keeping some traditions alive while also offering all the wonderful services of a modern library system. And the Amistad Research Center's collections, which redeem often concealed histories, telling stories of freedom and dignity through methods as varied as land deeds and newspapers, or the art forms of poetry and contemporary zines. Let's also learn from the Burke Museum of Natural History and Culture, an institution which teaches us how interconnected archaeology, paleontology, folklore, and art can be, an ecosystem as intricate as the Pacific Northwest, which this museum serves. The Oakland Museum of California, too, also uses one region as a window into all places, showing how California is so much more complex than any one narrative can encompass, a kind of city institution that is truly connected to its city, not just a closed-off space that only has the address of a certain location. This is why we need museums and libraries too, if only because they are some of the only places that won't turn a community member away for not paying, or get someone arrested or try to haggle, fool, confuse, numb, or distract their visitors. No, these are people's palaces, made for dignity. Every medalist today and every finalist, every institution that promises a moment of calm, of learning, of illumination, these are our palaces. From the closed stacks of special collections to the most visited museums, these grand, varied municipal organizations, from central branches to neighborhood outposts, with their guardian lions made of stone, with their water fountains that always taste like pennies, with their air of discovery and wonder, from the most massive city museum to the smallest roadside memorial, let's keep these palaces alive and free of all barriers. Thank you for listening.